Hi guys, it's Paul from Alt Game Reviews again, and today we're going to be talking about Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance. Is it really that bad, and should you play it? Okay guys, before we get into the actual video, I just want to ask you, if you have played the game, drop a comment below and tell me what you think. Dungeons & Dragons is available on the PlayStation, Xbox and PC. It's a 1 to 4 player co-op third-person action game with some light RPG features, character customization, unlockable skills and upgradable armour, and it's based off the beloved tabletop game. So I'm just going to say off the bat, I think this game is for a very specific group of people, either D&D enthusiasts or someone that has a good group of friends that pretty much used to playing these hack and slash sort of bargain bin games. I really would not recommend this game to a solo player. I don't think it's worth full price and it is a really unforgiving experience solo. But that being said, if you're still interested, I'll give a bit of explanation what the game's about. So you can pick between 4 characters to play as. You pretty much main a character like Marvel's Avengers. If you play solo, you're by yourself, you don't have the 3 with you, there's not bots. I think this is a bit of a missed opportunity. They could have done like Dragon Age where you can control them in real time, but hey ho, it is what it is. So the 4 characters are Brunor Battlehammer, he's the Dwarven King and the tank of the group with AoE attacks and regeneration buffs. I really wouldn't recommend playing him solo. There's Wolfgar, the Barbarian Chieftain with his Warhammer, and he's the balanced DPS of the group, strong at taking on large groups. There's Catti Bray, the adopted human daughter of Brunor. She's the archer for range attacks, and she's also the healer of the group. Dritzel Durden, the Drow Elf Ranger, and he's the critical DPS of the group, delivering high damage parries and backstab attacks. Each has their own unique starting equipment, base attributes, and 2 abilities with a final 3rd and 4th to unlock. Each of them also has 3 skill trees which you can invest skill points into. So for the graphics, definitely looks better than it plays. The heroes, the world environments and cutscenes are all, really detailed. The game definitely has its own unique style, somewhere between Overlord and Elder Scrolls Online. The game's tone's a little bit all over the place. There's silly humour, but there is swearing.
Move it! Move it! It's not my fault this They need that below gutter!
A lack of gore, but then there's impaled and hung dwarfs littered across the levels. Is it for kids? Is it for adults? Is it somewhere in between? I mean, it's probably the former, because I doubt most 13-year-olds are choosing to play tabletop D&D over Fortnite. I expected more variety in the level design and environments. There's about 6 or 7 different acts to play through, with 3 individual missions and then a final boss. They're all different takes on icy environments. Starting out, I had high hopes. I didn't really think it was going to be as bad as what people said it was, but it does get pretty repetitive. Picked up armor pieces and there was lightning, fire and poison resistant armor, and I expected separate worlds and characters primarily based around each of those traits. Yes, there are environmental traps based on these elements, but they're only ever small areas of a level and don't really vary. Enemies and bosses are recycled frequently. For the most part, you'll be fighting goblins and Verbeeg, with some trolls, necromancers, frost giants and the hyena men thrown into the mix. I think it's pretty difficult not to be disappointed in the lack of distinction between each of the levels. It doesn't really help that I've recently completed Demon's Souls on the PS5, which really has a definitive difference between the setting, design and characters of each mission and location. And for the gameplay, I mean, it's just usual hack and slash. It's fun with a few buddies, but it's not very deep. There's a lot of difficulty options to select, and it's based on your character's overall power level. So obviously if you're alone, you're dividing that by 4. It's always going to be pretty low, and you're pretty much going to have to play on the lowest difficulty. And it's just painful and unforgiving for a solo player. You'll struggle to get by, and this will ultimately limit the magnitude of rewards, and that'll block you off to access to the higher tiered loot. I played some levels with a few randoms, and we absolutely steamrolled our way through them, using team attacks to quickly wipe out squads of enemies, which would normally be a tactical fight solo. But this is when the game really starts to break down. Solo, the AI wasn't great, I didn't notice that many bugs, but as soon as you have multiple characters dishing out attacks, that's when it really starts to break down, and the enemies have a hard time tracking who they're trying to attack. There's a system which allows players to set up camp after a battle, refreshing their points and unlocking a new checkpoint deeper into the dungeon. However, if you're feeling cocky, you can veto the campsite and instead opt for a multiplier boost to the rarity of the loot you find in chests or as a reward for completing the level. But that means if you're a solo player, there's no chance to be revived and you'll have to run all the way back to the start. There's no reviving, there's no bot allies to come to your aid when you die solo. I don't understand why the remaining heroes were not programmed to fight as bots alongside incomplete teams, and it really doesn't help that the matchmaking isn't great. There was a lot of times that I just could not find a game to play in. You always just have to select quick match. There's no server or room selection other than if you invite someone in from your friends list. It could have followed the style of Dragon Age with real-time strategy, switching between characters on the fly. That really would have led to some exciting and tactically challenging battles, going between the different heroes heroes and their playstyles, or you could have it like Republic Commando, command the AI to attack and revive. For the story, it's pretty forgettable. There's not really a Dark Alliance, it's different enemies all fighting for this shard. What happens to it, you don't really know. I don't keep up with the books, I don't know much about the lore. There is a codex which keeps you up to date and informed on who everyone is, but I would say it's a bit of a letdown. There's a overall baddie introduced at the start and you take them at the end. I mean, that's pretty much it. Something I wasn't a fan of as well was the loot. It's just recycled and it's really displayed and set up like a sort of mobile game with loot boxes. If you play in higher difficulties, you're guaranteed better loot, but it's still randomised and you just end up with different variations on the same armour pieces. So you might get common poison gauntlets and then you might get epic poison gauntlets, but they look the exact same. There's a hub mode which you'll use for mission selection and a store. This is where you'll also pick up your loot after a mission. There's not really much to buy in the store, it's more for you to sell and receive coins and then upgrade your existing gear. And something I think that was also a bit of an annoyance was that you can't change loot in missions. So say you come across an enemy, I would say the vast majority you would assume would be ice resistant enemies, but then you might come across a poison mage and you can't on the fly put on your poison armor. It kind of seems redundant and you don't know what you're going in for. So, you know, I don't really have a lot to say about this game. It's definitely one of the worst games I've played this year, unfortunately. I did have high hopes for it. I did think it looked pretty enjoyable. I think if you like D&D, you probably have already decided you're going to try it. If you also happen to own an Xbox or PC, you're in luck as you can play it on Game Pass if you really want to. You can try that out for £1 for your first month and then £8 following each month. Game Pass has a massive selection of phenomenal games with first-day access to some big games including this one. Get some friends together, hack and slash through, try a couple of missions in 4-player co-op. I'm sure you'll have a bit of fun, but I think if I wasn't doing this review, I probably wouldn't have played it till the end. PlayStation players, you're out of luck. I really would not recommend paying the full asking price for this, especially if you're a solo player. It's a bargain bin pickup for sure. So guys, what did you think of Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance? Have you played it? I don't score games, I just give my opinion, but is that something you would like to see added? Let me know. Listen, if you found the video useful at all, if you found the game interesting, please like it and subscribe to the channel. I do gaming videos every week, including reviews.